What would you say if a cop leaned in your window and whispered, "This conversation is off the record"? If you answer the wrong way, you can hand over your own case in seconds. And no, off the record is not a magic shield for you. Hit subscribe right now, because what I'm about to show you could save your freedom when your heart is pounding and your brain goes blank. Like this video now so you can find it fast when you actually need these words. Here's the reality. When an officer says something feels casual, friendly, or unofficial, that is often the exact moment your guard drops. You think you're just clearing things up. You think being nice will make this go away, but your mouth can turn a warning into handcuffs before you even notice what happened. I've analyzed over 200 body cam videos, and the same pattern shows up again and again. The driver starts talking to help, then the officer keeps digging. In this video, you're going to learn the first sentence you say the instant you hear "off the record," the line that shuts down phishing questions, the words that block consent to searches, and the sentence that protects your silence the right way. Most people have no idea how fast a normal stop can turn into an investigation. Watch what happens when you use the right words instead of your feelings. Now, let's talk about why this matters so much to you. There is no safe little side chat with police the way movies make it look. If an officer wants information, your casual answer can still be written in a report, repeated in court, or used to build more suspicion. That is why you never treat "off the record" like a promise. Here's the trick they don't want you knowing. Your best protection is not being rude. It is being clear, calm, and short. You give your required documents. You follow lawful orders. You do not argue. But you also do not volunteer your story. That is where most drivers blow it. They fill silence with excuses. They guess, they joke, they try to sound innocent, and that extra talking gives the officer more material, not less. If you want to protect your rights, your job is simple. Keep your words tight, keep your hands visible, keep your cool. The first thing you say has to reset the whole moment. You do not accept the frame the officer gave you. You set your own frame. Here's exactly what you say. "Officer, I don't do off the record. Am I being detained or am I free to leave?" Word for word. Memorize that line. That sentence works because it forces the stop into one of two boxes. Box 1, you are detained. That means the officer is holding you there, and now you know this is not a casual chat. Box 2, you are free to leave. That means you do not need to stand there helping build a case against yourself. You're making the officer choose, instead of floating in that gray area where people talk themselves into trouble. Bad way. Most drivers say, "It's fine, I've got nothing to hide." Then the officer starts asking where you're coming from, who you were with, what's in the car, and why you look nervous. Good way. Smart drivers say, "Officer, I don't do off the record. Am I being detained or am I free to leave?" Then the officer has to deal with your status first, not your life story. Let me show you exactly why that matters to you. A lot of stops reach a point where the original reason is basically over. Maybe you already gave your license. Maybe the warning is written. Maybe the officer is now just trying to keep you talking. If you keep chatting, you can drift from a traffic stop into a criminal investigation without even feeling the switch. That is why this question is so powerful. It checks whether the stop still has a legal reason or whether the officer is hoping you stay and volunteer more. This comes straight from Supreme Court rulings. In Ohio v. Robinette, the court said officers do not have to tell you that you are free to go before asking more questions or asking for consent to search. Read that again in plain English. They do not have to rescue you from the moment. They do not have to say, "Hey, by the way, you can leave now." So if you wait for the officer to make that clear, you may wait forever. You ask the question yourself. There's another reason this line helps you. Your voice stays calm. Your body stays still. You are not picking a fight. You're not refusing lawful orders. You're simply asking a clean question about your status. Defense attorneys use this exact line in court because it shows you were trying to protect your rights without escalating the stop. Without this line, your words spread out everywhere. You explain why you were late. You explain why your friend borrowed the car. You explain why there is cash in your pocket. Every answer creates a new branch for the officer to explore. With this line, you stop the branching before it grows. You are either free to leave or you are not. That is the first wall you put up. Have you ever had an officer try the friendly voice on you during a stop? Drop a comment below and tell me the exact line they used, because chances are it sounded polite right before it turned serious. Now let's go to the second line, and this one can save you when the officer keeps pushing. Listen closely because this is critical. If the officer keeps questioning you after that first sentence, or if the stop clearly turns into an investigation, you use your silence the right way. You look at the officer and say this: "I am invoking my right to remain silent and I want a lawyer." Those exact words. Do not shorten it to, "I don't want to talk." Do not make it cute. Do not say, "Maybe I should get an attorney." Be direct. Why does that wording matter to you so much? Because silence alone is not always enough. If you just stare, shrug, or say, "I don't know," that can still hurt you. Legal experts agree this is your strongest protection because it leaves less room for twisting your meaning later. You are not being vague, you're clearly using your rights. Bad way. Most drivers say, I already told you everything, or I'm not saying anything. Then they get baited by one more question and start talking again. Good way. Smart drivers say, I'm invoking my right to remain silent and I want a lawyer. Then the record is much cleaner and your position is much harder to twist. Here's the reality. A lot of people think they only need to worry after hearing Miranda rights on TV. That is a huge mistake for you. During normal roadside questioning, officers often ask questions before any Miranda warning happens. In Berkemer v. McCarty, the Supreme Court said, ordinary traffic stop questioning is usually not the same as full custody right away. Plain English, do not wait for a TV speech before you protect yourself. Use your words early. And there's another big case you need to know. In Salinas v. Texas, the court said a person who stayed silent during police questioning did not get full protection just by going quiet. Plain English? If you want the protection, you say it out loud. That is why your sentence matters. I'm invoking my right to remain silent and I want a lawyer. Not later, not after 10 more answers. Right then, this is 100% legal. You're not breaking the law by refusing to explain yourself. You are not required to solve the officer's puzzle for him. Your job is to stay calm, not to perform. Former police officers have confirmed this works because it changes the contact from emotional to formal. Once you stop chatting, the officer has less free material to work with. And please hear this part. You never lie. You never reach suddenly. You never resist. If the officer orders you out of the car, you comply physically. If the officer asks for your license, registration, and insurance, you provide them. Your rights are strongest when your behavior is clean and your words are short. That is why this line matters so much. It protects you without making you look wild. The third tactic is the one that stops, the mind if I take a quick look trap. Here's exactly what you say. Officer, I do not consent to any searches. Say it calmly, say it once. If needed, repeat it the same way. This matters because the word consent is where many cases are lost. If you say yes, nod, open a bag, unlock your phone, or step aside in a way that looks like permission, you may have just done the officer's job for him. And once a search happens, you cannot magically take that yes back later. Let me show you exactly how simple this sounds in real life. The officer says, you don't mind if I check real quick, right? You say, Officer, I do not consent to any searches. That's it. No speech, no debate. Bad way. Most drivers say, sure, go ahead. I've got nothing illegal. Then the search expands. The officer finds something unexpected, and now the whole stop changes. Good way. Smart drivers say, Officer, I do not consent to any searches. Then the officer must rely on actual legal grounds instead of your permission. This comes straight from Supreme Court rulings, too. In Schneckloth v. Bustamonte, the court said, a consent search can still count even if the person did not know they could refuse. Plain English, the law may still treat your yes like a real yes, even if you did not understand how much that yes would cost you. That is why your no has to be clear. Watch what happens when you do this right. The officer may keep talking. The officer may act surprised. The officer may say, if you've got nothing to hide, why not? That line is designed to get you to defend your innocence by giving up your rights. Do not take the bait. Innocent people have private things too. Your right to refuse is not proof of guilt. It is protection against random digging. And this rule matters for more than your trunk. It matters for your backpack, your purse, your glove box, your phone, your center console, your body, your home, if the conversation somehow moves there later. Once you learn this sentence, you carry it everywhere. This is 100% legal. You are not blocking justice. You are making the government do its own work. There's one more piece you need here. Sometimes officers try to stretch a stop longer so they can keep poking around. In Rodriguez v. United States, the Supreme Court said officers cannot extend a traffic stop longer than needed for the traffic mission, just to chase unrelated evidence without a real legal reason. Plain English, they do not get endless time with you because they are curious. Your short answers and your refusal to consent make it harder for the stop to grow legs. So if you remember only one search line, make it this one. Officer, I do not consent to any searches. Say it calm. Say it steady. Then stop filling the silence with fear. 90% of drivers don't know what's coming next. If you're still here, you're already ahead of almost everyone on the road. Drop a comment saying I'm still here, because the next move ties all of this together. The fourth tactic is about keeping your answers narrow, even when you must cooperate with basics. You do not need to turn document handoff into story time. Here's exactly what you say. I will provide my documents, but I am not answering questions without counsel. That line helps you separate what you must do from what you do not have to do. A lot of drivers panic and start narrating everything. I'm coming from my cousin's house. I had 1 beer hours ago. My friend left that bag. I didn't know the registration was expired. You think talking makes you look normal, but talking also creates details to challenge, compare, and test. If one detail is off, now the officer says you were inconsistent. Your own words become the evidence. Bad way. Most drivers say, "I'm happy to explain everything," and small mistakes start sounding like lies and the stop gets deeper. Good way. Smart drivers say, "I will provide my documents, but I'm not answering questions without counsel." Then the interaction stays focused on what is required. This line also keeps you safer because it sounds controlled. You're not refusing to identify yourself where the law requires it. In some places, rules can require you to identify yourself during a lawful stop. But that does not mean you have to answer every open-ended question about your night, your friends, your plans, or your property. Defense attorneys use this exact line in court because it shows a judge you cooperated with the basic traffic process while protecting yourself from extra questioning. That balance matters for you. It shows respect without surrender. And there is a hidden benefit. When you stop oversharing, you also stop guessing. Guessing is dangerous. People guess about times, distances, drinks, addresses, and names when they are nervous. Then the officer checks one detail, finds a mismatch, and now your normal stress gets painted like guilt. Now let's put the law under all this into plain English for you. First, Ohio versus Robinette. Officers do not have to announce that you are free to go before asking more questions. That is why you ask, "Am I being detained or am I free to leave?" Second, Salinas versus Texas. Silence by itself may not protect you. That is why you say, "I'm invoking my right to remain silent and I want a lawyer." Third, Schneckloth versus Bustamonte. A consent search can still be treated as valid even if you did not know you could refuse. That is why you say, "I do not consent to any searches." Rodriguez matters too. A traffic stop is supposed to be about the traffic reason. Your short, calm, clear lines help keep the stop inside that lane. This comes straight from Supreme Court rulings. Now picture this. Pulled over at night for a broken taillight. Officer says with a soft smile, "Hey, off the record, where are you coming from tonight?" You stay calm and say, "Officer, I don't do off the record. Am I being detained or am I free to leave?" If the officer keeps pressing, you say, "I'm invoking my right to remain silent and I want a lawyer." If he asks to search, you say, "Officer, I do not consent to any searches." If he keeps fishing, you say, "I will provide my documents, but I'm not answering questions without counsel." The stop gets smaller. You are no longer feeding the machine with your own words. You gave what was required, you refused what was optional, you stayed respectful, you stayed safe. Next week, I'm revealing what to say when cops claim they smell weed. Subscribe right now. Hit subscribe so you catch that next video on the smell of weed trick. Smash that like button. Stay safe out there. C. 2026. Script Scene Splitter AI GitHub.